Hey everyone, how are you? Super excited to have on this episode a great guest, Stewart Morales, with Coldwell Banker Commercial NRT. And in this episode, we're going to discuss just tons of great information on residential brokers transitioning into commercial real estate, some of the pitfalls that some of the commercial brokers sometimes run into, and we're just going to get a nice background as to how Stewart got involved in commercial. So stay tuned. And we're back. And as I mentioned, we're super excited to have on our guest, Stewart Morales. He's the commercial broker with Coldwell Banker Commercial NRT. And before we begin, go ahead and check out our partner Element Studios. That's EL3MENT Studios. We've got Locke behind the camera today. He'll be very disappointed if you don't check out that site. And as I mentioned earlier, we're going to talk today about just how residential brokers transition into commercial real estate. And Stewart, how are you doing today?
You know, I'm doing excellent. I'm really honored to be here.
Yeah.
Any opportunity that you can sit there and talk about real estate and spread some information and turn it into knowledge, it's a good day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, and I'm glad you came onto the show. You and I met actually at a showing. We're looking at one of your listings, and you've been in the business for quite some time. Seems like you got it in around 2003, 2004, kind of went back in and out of the industry. Tell us your transition into real estate.
It's a great question. Glad to answer that.
Yeah.
To tell you where I am now, obviously you want to go back. How far back I want to go? Let's go back really far. Let's go back into the 80s. Yes,
yeah, let's
80s.
do it.
Hopefully I don't look like I'm from the 80s. But way back when, I always used to like to inform myself of things that I was curious about, hobbies, so on and so forth. But you want to then try to leverage that into what? Into just personal growth and transition into your life as you grow up. I was a kid. I knew I was going to be a teenager. I knew I was going to be an adult one day. I knew I was going to expand my horizons. So first thing I did is started learning a little bit about cars, started learning a little bit about electronics. And granted, electronics and cars back then were just so simple and non-over-designed. And why I'm saying that is because that's my philosophy, or at least part of it, in handling real estate. Mm-hmm. Non-over-design. Let's keep it simple. Let's keep it on point. Let's all go in the same direction. So what did that mean way back then? I started work. I went to college, had 2 jobs, was in a fraternity.
How was that?
Just everything you see in the movies, and then some. And then some.
Amazing.
So started selling electronics. So that was my first introduction in sales. And maybe I didn't realize it back then, but that skill set that you learn to actually sell something, you start developing a certain rhythm of how do you sell. And it evolved in selling cars. Yes, used car salesman. Guilty. That from my electronic background to selling electronics to selling used cars, the skill set that I learned and then translated into telecom, data networks, is very simple. You don't sell. If you sell and you meet investors or people who are in real estate that are savvy, you're really exposing yourself. You're really exposing yourself to a lot of negativity, a lot of horrible innuendos, because you're a salesman. You're a cheesy sales guy.
Yeah.
So, and in essence, you're building a wall. So what I do is I don't sell, I tell. And that's the key, because once you tell, the person has an idea whether it is selling way back when a Walkman or selling a used car. They're there because they want to be there. Yeah. So you're there to enrich their experience. You're there to give them some nuance that they maybe not considered, or considered so much that it's paralysis by analysis. And I find that a lot in whether you're a savvy investor, whether you're a beginner. There's fear and trepidation in this process, whatever you're buying or selling, on both sides.
Absolutely.
So I tell. So I took that skill set and started doing telecom data networks. And believe it or not, back in the 90s and earliest 2000s, Everything was about telecom. Your phone system was the biggest deal in the world.
Absolutely.
And a lot of the clients didn't have phone systems. They had the landlines doing all these little tricks that a phone system can do. So I knew, again, that the value and the course of things was in the phone system, not in the landlines. So I saw the transition, jumped into that industry, and hit the glass ceiling. What I mean by that, there's a glass ceiling in everything you do, but you got to be as yourself aware of that glass ceiling. No one can tell you where that glass ceiling is. If they do, the glass ceiling has 4 walls and you're actually in a box in life. And that's someplace you don't want to be. So out of nowhere, I got a call from a buddy of mine that I went to college, and he was an architect. And what I mean by architect, that stereotypical geek, working 20 hours there trying to draw. And this is what when you would draw and not use the AutoCAD, which he appreciated, and his father, who was an architect, despised. He's like, well, if you draw the line, that really means something versus doing this and that. And they would argue going back and forth. And quite frankly, that was another thing that I added to my toolbox. As we grow as people, investors, sales, buy side, you want to add things to your toolbox. So I realized the benefit of modern day thinking and the wisdom of past experience. So we got together, and he partnered with somebody, a finance guy. Mm-hmm. So this is the way things were done back in the late 90s, early 2000s. You want to partner with a finance guy. And that guy's supposed to get you all the people that you'll know and so on and so forth. He has some skill set that you kind of so esoteric, and believe me, they build it up that way. But the reality is now in 2020, all the information is there and accessible to you. So we're going to get to 2020.
Yeah.
So he called me. So I decided to take a leap of faith. I had what I call success in the telecom data network business. I saw the glass ceiling, and for me, that glass ceiling was, Stewart, let's just throw out some figures, random figures. You're making $500,000 a year now. You're doing great for the company, and we're going to give you a promotion. Oh, okay. We're going to make you master sales director of the universe for our company. Okay. Well, you know what? That's amazing. All that literally did, which is a translation part, double my work, triple my responsibility, became the person to blame. And when I got the check, I'm like, the check's the same.
You're kidding.
I wish I was.
Wow.
If I was kidding, maybe I wouldn't have gotten in real estate. But
Wow.
Yeah, so, and that's part of the salesmanship.
Yeah.
The owner of the business sold me on the idea of a title. So, and the timing was again amazing, because my buddy from college called me and said, Stewart, what are you doing right now? I think you're the perfect guy to help start this company because of your, and he didn't use these words skill set, but because of the way you talk to people, to relate to people, more importantly, the way people relate to you. And one of the things I would always tell him, he was very like a geek. So he would look up stuff. Again, internet was around, but not very prevalent. So information wasn't everywhere, spread obliquely where you run into it. And that's also another issue, discerning information. But so he's like, yeah, come work with us, come partner up with us and make it happen in real estate. You should be doing this in real estate. And one of the things that I used to always tell him was, I may not know, let's just say real estate, let's just say selling cars, let's just say electronics, but I know people that do, and I know how to relate to people. So that stuck with him. And that's the reason he looked me up several years later after college. And again, growing older means growing apart. So I did that, took that leap of faith, went into real estate, not knowing a thing about real estate. But the reason why I took that leap of faith, because when I worked in the telecom data networks, I didn't even own a computer.
Wow.
I knew nothing about the internet. DSL back then was the item that was just coming out, and DSL stands for Digital Subscriber Line.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't know that. So I didn't know anything, and the text there would be giving me so much grief of like, oh, this guy doesn't know this or this guy doesn't know nothing. And the reason why I stomached through that, because I needed to evolve. So then the decision to go into real estate was not a difficult one, because one of the things that you're not supposed to do is bite off more than you can chew.
Right.
That's what people say, right? But conversely, if you want to actually be that part of that 5, 10%, 1% in life, you always bite off more than you can chew.
Amazing.
Always. Why? And the only time you don't bite off more than you can chew is when you're actually eating food. So that's stuck. That's
great points. Jeez. I haven't been, I don't even want to keep going. This is just amazing. Yeah.
Well, hey, let me preface something. I love to rant. That's my style of communicating.
Yeah.
So
no. I am.
So please stop me. Or
no. This has been great.
Give me a sign, or
no. Let's
give me a sign.
keep going. No, let's keep going with this.
I'm cheers, whatever it takes.
Yeah, cheers, because it is going great.
Appreciate it. Thank you. So I jumped into real estate, not knowing anything. Mm-hmm. Not just real estate. I jumped into commercial real estate. Mercy.
Right off the bat.
Yeah. Feet to the fire.
Not even, okay. Because most brokers will go from residential to commercial, and they'll take that transition. Yeah. You just dove in and said,
yeah.
Wow.
And interestingly enough, I was a blank canvas, and that's the best way to learn. So when let's just put some parameters. When you're there 9 to 5, you're a blank canvas. But when you're at home, whether that's 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock, or in my case, to this day, 6, 7 to 12 at night, I usually end my day at midnight, do research. And the reason why is you're a blank canvas, and then you take that and you go home and you practice, is my philosophy of teaching, growing, simple. You first educate, whether it's right now I'm being educated by both you gentlemen, okay, and it's lost, right? So you have to meditate. So you get educated at where you are in your 9 to 5, 8 to 4, whatever that is. Then you meditate. Whether it is right now when you're having a drink, enjoying it with great company, whether you're watching something on Netflix and it hits you, whether you're reading something, whether you're cooking, chopping something up, and you see something on that plate and it reminds you of something in real estate. So meditate. You got to take it further. You have to grow. You still got to take it further to acquire that success and that information that you learned in 9 to 5 and meditated on and started growing. You educate, you meditate, you grow, then you teach, then you repeat. And that's how you get knowledge. And that's the crux of my business. Not sell, but tell.
Wow. And that essentially allowed you to just hit. So that's a great point that you hit, which was you were blank slate when you got into the commercial industry. So, and I think that's the biggest problem, because when a broker starts with residential, they have so many, they're just all in onto the residential, that commercial seems almost like an entirely different, world. And sometimes if you go into something from the start that might seem difficult, but that's the only thing that you're exposed to, it's almost a plus or a benefit, because, you're right off the bat, learning, all of those different, well, explain that a little bit more in detail.
Oh, absolutely. Well put. Yeah. All your experience in lives are either baggage,
right,
or they're a way to achieve greater success. So for myself, I'm not trying to be mean, but I didn't have the baggage of mastering residential real estate, because the fact is,
exactly,
if you're a master residential real estate, why are you looking at commercial real estate, right? You have to start off as a white belt and everything. And I've been in martial arts since I was 4 years old. So you always want to start off as a white belt, because to be a master, like a lot of people identify themselves in martial arts, if you're really a master, I can't wait to learn from you. That makes me a master.
Unbelievable. That's amazing. And that's that is just so good. You're right. Now, is that, and I think that's also why today you're also teaching residential brokers and how to transition into commercial, right?
Absolutely. Excellent. Teaching is part of the cycle that keeps you going. When you teach someone, when you're learning something, let's face it, and you have to learn something, and you need to read this document, this contract, you got to double check it, dot those I's, cross those T's, deal with the lender, deal with the attorney, be a liaison to all these adjunct people, right? It's a burden. it's a burden. There's responsibility on you that's so heavy. But when you teach, you're giving, so then you yourself are refreshed and you're renewed. And that's what we have to do as brokers, as people, as a society as a whole. You want to get rid of some of that angst, that bitterness, God forbid. Start giving, start teaching.
Yeah.
And then you're not your own focus. The burden is relieved.
That's amazing.
And in some cases, the burden is gone. And when next day you wake up, repeat.
Absolutely. And yeah, absolutely. And what sort of curriculum are you typically teaching? What have been some of the most painful things that you've seen residential brokers transition to? I mean, what are some of those pain points?
Well, I'm going to be very hard because why I'm saying I'm going to be very hard is because in our industry we're licensed. Mm-hmm. So there's an onus on us to follow the letter of law.
Right.
To have fiduciary responsibility, to do our due diligence. Conversely, when you're in a business, and it's a fault of the industry, when you're a residential broker, commercial broker, you're an independent contractor, it's stressed magnificently upon you that this is your business and you got to grow your business and grow your business. So from that end, a lot of people are just trying to, get business any way they can. And that's good to build a business, but you're actually just building a business just vertically. And what I mean by that, you may have successful transactions if you're a residential broker and you've done some commercial and they happen to work, but you're missing so much of the beauty of the east-west, not just north-south, and you're not really doing your client that service. You may have gotten him the number that he wanted, mm-hmm. but that's not the number that the market, a pro forma, would have got your client.
So those are the skills that you teach then, essentially, how to build a pro forma, how to accurately look at a cap rate versus sales comparisons. Is that something that I think most... Okay.
That's something I would like to expound on, mm-hmm. but, you got to get through that granite.
Yeah. Right. The granite.
Granite.
This is granite. I promise you, we have granite on this table. Yeah.
So you got to get through that granite. So right now, I've been with Coldwell Banker not even a year.
Okay.
Not even a year. So if I go back, I was out of industry, got back into it recently a year. And the reason why I got back in the industry is the reason why you should do so many things in life. Opportunity. So when opportunity knocks, there's a sturdy one.
Yeah.
You have to answer as a professional. And so I answered the bell, so to speak, and got back into commercial real estate and saw the opportunity to, once again, this platform that Coldwell Banker has, and it's a wonderful platform. Could I brag about them? Yeah, they've done $7 billion in just commercial transaction, another $7+ billion in leasing. So I looked at it as like, who should I partner up with?
Yeah.
Went on several interviews, and at the end of the day, in structuring your business, this is how you pick who do you partner up with or what company you want to go with. There's an airplane, there's the passengers, there's the captain. All that's very important. Sometimes you're the captain of that plane. Sometimes you're the plane. You got to carry those people, right?
Right.
Sometimes you're the passenger. But none of that works without an airport. So you have to find your airport first. You have to find that airport. Where can you I have the passengers now. I have the plane. I'm the captain. I was a passenger. Sometimes it's best to be the passenger mm-hmm. because the passenger knows that they're going to hit that airport. Sometimes it's best to be the plane because the plane knows that it's built to fly and to land. Sometimes you got to be the captain. You got to guide those people on the plane, tell the plane where to go, look at the turbulence and all that, technical stuff. So sometimes you got to be the captain, but you need an airport. Mm. And that's why I chose, and they chose me, Coldwell Banker. And it's been a wonderful experience of growing. And that's where we get into the residential. And I'm going to expound on that because that's what you asked me about. You don't want to inundate people with all these terms, cap rates, pro formas, all those terms, leverage, 1031 exchanges they're familiar with, but they might not know what an opportunity zone is. They might not know what syndication is. They might not know what REITs is. They might not know all these other terms that real estate gives you. Certainly an NOI. I got it. The heart of a deal. NOI. Let me not mention that one.
Right.
So what you do is you remind them of what got them to the dance, why they're in residential, and then you, like I did, try to get them to make a lateral move. And all I do at first is it's not just me. It's also a business person that I partner up with. He's a great influencer, excellent broker. He does this. And you just tell him, move laterally, look at a bigger landscape. Don't just look at that building up top that needs rent. Look at the bottom floors that says for lease by owner.
Right.
Goodness, that is opportunity. So all we're doing at first is just getting them to expand their peripheral vision, to see that there's opportunity. And in that class, we show them how you can get opportunities, so on and so forth, how to leverage your relationship. And that's a term they got to learn in commercial, but how to leverage your relationships, not just hammer and nail, but you have other tools. And moving further, we give them a little bit of the fundamentals. We tell them, of course, cap rates. A lot of people are kind of familiar with what a cap rate is, but you and I both know cap rate is really circumstantial to a certain property at a certain area, at a certain window of time.
Right.
That's the reality.
Yeah.
Things are more performa based. That's a greater influencer, and it should be. So that's a whole story of how I decide what a property really is worth, or how it should, be worth more or less. It's a whole big can of worms.
Well, that's another podcast episode.
Certainly,
in my book.
Certainly, be glad to expound on that. Yeah. So back to the residential brokers. So we kind of educate them on that, and it's about an hour and a half to 2 hours. And we'll tell them, step by step. We'll give them an example of deals and how you stumble across deals and how to just initiate the interaction. We tell them, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, just some practical, quick, tip and trick. How do you actually, let's dive deeper into that specific one. How do you find a good deal? Just one quick little sample that you can share with us today.
Of commercial?
Yeah. What? Yeah.
The best ways to find deals are always through relationships, right? Everybody knows that. That's not a secret. So for myself, having a relationship with residential brokers is one of the reasons why I ever so value Coldwell Banker, because it exposes me to those brokers and exposes me to the fact that they have rock solid relationships. Yeah. So the how do you do is almost a formality. Currently, I'm working on a deal right now. A lady is a residential broker, successful. I think she was top 3 producer for Coldwell Banker in her region for residential broker. After I looked her up, I'm like, oh, okay, good for her. And she, on one of the classes we taught, decided to take this program and get credited for what she's able to do. In Coldwell Banker, you have to get credited before you start doing any type of commercial real estate. And they take it further, which is a beautiful thing. It's not just about getting educated. It's about growing, right?
Right.
So how do you grow? We already know how. Mentor, right?
Absolutely.
So they'll try to partner you up with a mentor, whether it's 1 transactions or 20. It doesn't matter. Quite frankly, I don't care if I do 1 million transactions. For myself, I always want to be involved with another broker. You need multiple eyes on deals all the time. It's not so much that someone's watching your back. I look at it as watch my front.
Absolutely.
So your question is, how do you look for deals? They're out there right now. Everybody knows this is a weird, peculiar time. In every industry ever, when there's volatility, there's opportunity. Everybody knows that. Margins, right? That's the key word. There's margins. There's speculators. There's doubt, right? You yourself are a broker. We're the calming force, right? We have the right to interrupt your life, make that call, and point you somewhere. Whether you think you know where you're going doesn't matter. We have that right as a broker. And I have that confidence because I know at the end of the day, I'm going to add value to the situation. And I don't get off that. Once the call gets going, I don't end the call there. I want to get value in return. Why? Because that's called synergy. Once you create synergy, and interlock those fingers, now it's hard to break, right?
Right.
But if, I got my point across, you got your point across, salami, bologna, applesauce, bye-bye. No.
Right.
That's building, vertically. You want to build by east-west, north-south, 360, all-encompassing.
That's amazing. Everything that you just pointed out there was just awesome. Most brokers are usually looking at, as you said, you want to choose the airport. I think that was a huge reason as to what you should keep in mind when you're looking for a place to, park your license. But, and one thing that I found interesting is you haven't mentioned, commission splits or anything like that, because I feel like a lot of different brokers are looking at just going to a place that has the highest commission split, and they're disregarding everything else. They're disregarding, the possibility of mentorships.
Beautiful.
And, it's great that you haven't mentioned any of that, because it shows that you have kind of you see the deeper value to just partnering up with, a place that has resources. Why haven't you mentioned commission? I mean, is that primarily the reason?
My motivation has never been money, because if you're focused on money, money is in the mind, and that will torment you.
Yeah.
The way to make money is to have it in your hand, whether it's write a check, hit enter on a keyboard. Money in the mind keeps you up at night.
Absolutely.
So certainly not. I mean, if you're thinking about, well, they're asking 60-40 split, but they're charging me $200 a month for this. They're giving $730, but they're charging me $400, and you're doing all this math. Are you a businessman? Are you just a taker? What are you? You have to identify, who are you on that plane? The analogy.
Yeah.
Who are you? You're a passenger then, right? You're trying to look to see the cheapest flight to what's a spot you like to go to?
Let's go to Puerto Vallarta.
Okay, Puerto Vallarta. It's $129. Let's do it. Okay, it was like $200. That one was $200. Great, let's go. The flight's at 10 p.m. or the flight's at 6 in the morning. You got to be there at 4. There's a layover. So they're not looking at the bigger picture.
Right.
They're looking at a number. A number in itself is finite. Right. Numbers are finite, ladies and gentlemen. No good. Value, opportunity, resources, building your business, that is infinite. And that, Absolutely. If you're going to be a broker, listen up. If you're going to be a broker, be infinite. Don't be finite. You're going to spend that commission check quickly. You have to grow your business. That commission comes and goes, whether it's a 5-figure or 6-figure commission. It comes and goes. It's probably been allocated already because you're already a broker. So
you spent it. You've already spent it in your head before you've even
absolutely
before you even closed the deal,
because it was in your mind, money
right.
in the mind. So
yeah.
So certainly, hopefully that answers your question.
No, absolutely it does. It's seeing the bigger picture. It is looking, just seeing the bigger picture and understanding that 100% of really nothing is zero, but 50% of actually growth in the long run is going to give you so much more value.
That's a great point. I want to echo that point in a different way. A lot of residential brokers, when they bring you a lead, and they have this tight relationship with the buyer, seller, person that's looking for space, whatever the transaction may be, they'll be like, okay, I want you to help me with this, and how about 70-30? I'm like, okay, great. That's fine with me. Thank you for giving me 70. No. 70-30 the other way. I say, well, can you explain what value you bring? Well, I'm bringing the client. I go, isn't that just a small part of the equation? Well, I feel I should get 70 because I'm bringing the client. I have a great relationship and so on and so forth. Right then and there, that's alarming, right? Because you already forgot that your fiduciary responsibility is to your client, that you're supposed to add value to them. What happened to that? What happened to, my goal is to get this person, whether it's tenant rep, leasing agent, whatever it is, buying multifamily, taking their 1031 and dumping in some bigger. Oh my God. And you're worried about a split? Goodness. That's terrible. That's terrible. I had that happen to me where, okay.
I can't even believe that they would say 70-30, to be honest with you. That,
right.
That's pretty aggressive. Jeez.
I had one, let's just say years ago. We're
Right.
years, a long time ago.
Sure.
Different company,
Yeah.
company ABC Main Street Realty. Look them up.
Yeah.
The broker said, we went back and forth. They started at 60-40, and they're like, well, I feel 50-50 is fair, but I want you to include me on your next deal. I immediately replied via email. I said, that sounds like a tie-in agreement. If A then B. I said, broker, check your letter of law there. Tie-in agreement, real estate.
Well, explain exactly what a tie-in agreement is.
Well, typically...
that was the best example right there, but
okay,
explain why that's
sure.
good.
Pleasure.
And illegal.
Yeah, well, tie agreement is saying if I do something or you do something, then B, I receive X, Y, and Z. Who gets lost in this translation? Who benefits? Well, A benefits and B benefits. But C happens to be the client that starts with a C. They lose big time. And you cannot do that. You're representing your client to your fullest ability. Once you're like splitting hairs over a commission, the client gets lost in the translation, and that's the last thing you want. So tie-in agreements are a big no-no, and not just in real estate, just generally speaking. Tie-in agreements, if you do it in a legal matter, there's so many moving parts, and it causes a lot of divisiveness, and you don't build your business that way.
Right.
You think you are, but you're building success, but you're not building to something that is my goal. My goal is not to build success. My goal is not even to be successful. My goal, and this is a somewhat of recent development about 10, 15 years ago, where I realized being success is a burden. I have to strive for this. I'm successful. It's an inward thing. But when you build prosperity, that encompasses success. That encompasses being successful. But you know what else it encompasses? It encompasses all the ancillary people that got you to that spot. You open your eyes and you realize success is just me. The people around me are my ecosystem. That's prosperity. And I learned that the hard way, like we all do. And I got to learn that from a person, and I shared with you a couple of weeks ago, a person that known for 29 years passed away.
Right.
And
Sorry.
Thank you. Her mantra, without having one, was just to have prosperity. Never noticed themselves in anything they did. And like I said, it took me a long time to realize that is the way, not to notice yourself in the transaction. And you will achieve prosperity, which trumps success any day of the week.
Absolutely. I think with adding value and putting yourself out of the equation and then just trying to provide enough value to everyone around you, the success will naturally come, whether you're looking at it or not. I think that it'll be encompassed in the prosperity. But like you said, just being selfless and looking to raise others is just a way for you to you're gonna be riding that wave too, because it's inherent. Like, you can't have one without the other. If you're helping and adding value, the universe will just provide you that success.
Getting back to my plane airport analogy, if you're trying to be successful, you don't want to be the passenger.
Right.
You want to be the plane. If you want to be successful, I want to be the pilot. If you want to be successful, you want to be the airport. Good luck building relationships to get you there. But if you have prosperity, you realize that, oh my goodness, I can fly in all these different planes as a passenger.
Yeah.
I can land at multiple airports. I could pick this private jet or this 747. That's the difference.
Prosperity triumphs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That is such a great way to look at life and just to view priorities. And I think that's the main issue that most people have, is just their priorities are all over the place, and they're not really where they should be. And this is the first time that you're doing this a podcast, right?
Green as a bean.
That's what I'm saying.
Because I bit off more than I can chew.
Yeah. No, but it's just amazing. I feel like you're natural,
Thank you.
Some people have that and some don't. And I think it's just kind of, you flow. You're in flow. I mean, like, literally just hitting just such great points. I'm like.
And I credit that to my success? No, I credit that to my failures. That's where you grow. Because it's like the opposite. People always want to notice their success and brag about their success,
Right.
and want everybody else to notice their success. And then people want to hide their failures. They want to become downtrodden. It's the opposite. You want to expound on your failures. You want to sit there and not zoom, but back up, see why you got there. And then you realize, oh, I was self-centered, anxious, bad time in life. You never solve a problem. People saying like, well, I need someone to solve a problem. When you solve a problem, another two arrive. You can never solve a problem. You can deal with issues, resolve those issues. What problem?
Yeah. I totally hear you there.
Absolutely.
You know?
They want it.
Yeah.
It's like, I look at everybody like fast food.
Yeah.
Portillo's. Specifically Portillo's. Why Portillo's? You ever been to Portillo's?
Yeah, pretty good.
You ever been to the drive-thru?
Yeah. Fast.
5 minutes, right?
Fast, yeah.
Sometimes 20 minutes, right? But you're there to get your Portillo's.
Well, yeah, actually, I take it back. Sometimes there's a line,
Yes.
like out of the parking lot.
But you're there to get Portillo's.
That's right.
So if we're talking, you already give me consent.
Right. That's a great point.
And I literally look at, this guy will stand 20 minutes in Portillo's. I'm going to take at least 5-10 minutes of his time, regardless, because
Exactly.
he's here.
Exactly. Well, let's talk about some of the pitfalls that brokers encounter, and some horror stories too.
Yeah, well, in the residential world, and again, this is going back years ago, right?
Yeah.
Again, you're trying to build your book of business. You made a residential transactions or a few transactions with this person and some family members, so you're close, right? You've gone to their yearly barbecue, even showed up at Thanksgiving, so you have the relationship. And they say, "Hey, look, I'm looking to lease a space, 5,000 square feet." Really? I didn't even know you were. Yes, we have a law firm and we're looking to lease space. Okay. The residential broker, God bless them, makes a couple calls to some people they know, right? Their limited database. And they find out that, oh my goodness, $35 a square feet? Wow. Yeah, but you know what? I know this other law firm, he's kind of a jerk, but I know he has a sublet there, that's some space that he's not using. Okay, thank you. So what happened with this broker is they set up a tour of the space. And they made the mistake of setting up during business hours. And what did that mean? All this proprietary information was everywhere.
Oh, wow.
And one of the owners of the law firm noticed that not only was they're doing a tour during that time, and the broker did not arrange the when and where, but the why. Competitive industry. No. That broker
Wow.
got sued.
You're kidding.
I wish I was, but here's the horrible caveat. You're a residential broker. You are not covered in your errors and omissions to do commercial transactions.
Bingo. Wow. That is a great point.
Terrible.
You're right. It's not included. So you're right.
So those are the many pitfalls. It's shocking because, and this gets back to something that I haven't talked about yet, but is my assembly line of doing things. Mm-hmm. I mentioned the airport. Well, the way I do things is a choo-choo train. It's all assembly line, box cart to box cart. So this residential broker, and pretty much, I'll say all of them, they have an assembly line of how they do it, whether they admit it, whether it's in their head or it's written down, of doing a residential transaction, whether it's good or bad, but they have that assembly line. Commercial real estate, there better not be no bad. Not only did you lose a client, you lost your reputation to your fellow brokers. In commercial real estate, it's a closer world. It's like
absolutely.
People know each other.
Absolutely.
Oh, that guy? Yeah, I heard about that guy.
Absolutely. And
unlike residential, and again, I'm being hard, it's not gossip. It's based a lot on reality. That guy is this, that, the other. So, you have to have a process of doing things, and residential brokers don't have a process. And that's part of the things that when I do try to educate a residential broker and transactions that I've worked with residential brokers, they all want to know, well, what's this NOI? What does it mean? And what is it? You know, I did an NOI. I came up with a $350,000 NOI on 6 units. Oh my God, where are they?
And their expenses were like 10%.
Yeah, what are they in Beverly Hills?
Yeah.
You know, so it's their process. It's the whole again bigger view, bigger perspective on how to do things. God bless their heart that they want to service their client, but service your client by providing them with someone they can. You know, you could ask me a lot of questions about things, and I may be the designated expert, but I tell you what, I always cross-reference. Because the letter of the law changes, things change in our society that may not be applicable right there on the spot. And you just can't take that risk. You cannot take that risk. So I cross-reference, I research it, and then I, more importantly, just put it into content for my client. And that's a pitfall.
And how about, so when a client approaches you, or generally speaking, let's say, how have you seen if a client approaches a commercial broker is the best approach for that broker to take on that client? You know, because some clients are tire kickers, or not clients, but there are a lot of prospective people out there that are looking to buy commercial real estate but aren't approved. Maybe they're, you know, they see that they can buy cash, but they, you know, don't provide any proof of funds. What do you provide any sort of advice as to like what you should do to kind of filter out, or not filter, but just help
facilitate?
Yeah, they're you know.
So this is on the buy side?
Yeah, on the buy side, because, you know, like, yeah, on the buy side.
Okay, so let me get this straight. You have a buyer that
comes to you,
not savvy,
right?
Kind of green,
right?
Wants to throw money at something and be rich, right?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, those people. A lot of times, I'll ask them right off the bat: do you have a portfolio? Do you have a profile of you know, property you own? Well, no, I don't. Okay, so we'll pull teeth. We'll go back and forth. I try to keep them in there. But at the end of the day, I end it by telling them, it's not me that's asking you these questions. It's the lender.
Yes.
And I'm trying to get you to a lender. I'm trying to get you past this conversation to lenders that will then look at you and qualify you and say yes. And then I'm trying to get you to a specific parcel of land, whatever that is, whether it's real estate on top of it, empty land, multifamily, office space, whatever. I have to get you past that. So with 100% assurance, if we continue this conversation next time, we're good. But until then, you have to answer
the steps.
You have to answer these questions, and they have to be rock solid, because my goal is, I kind of do it different. My goal is not to get the listing or to get the buyer. No, my goal is to get the transaction done for them. I can give you an example. I'm going to expound a bit. Again, I'm not going to say recently or 20 years ago. Let's just say 20 years ago.
Yeah, we'll just go with that number.
I had a listing appointment. This is a kind of funny story, kind of crazy. I'm trying to frame this perfectly. I like to try to tell stories and educating people.
It's the best way.
As it's a joke, so there's some anticipation, right? Okay, it's a joke, so you got my attention. You're not just telling me a story. I don't want to hear it. I'm texting. Don't worry, there's a punchline. So, joke and punchline. I got a call. I got contacted with a potential seller, and he had this real estate property, right? Land, improvements on top. And he's like, you know, I got your name from somebody, and they recommended you, and you know, how much is my property worth? I'm like, well, how about give me an address, right? He's like, okay, I want to sell this because I'm out of state. I go, oh, okay. So I'm looking to sell this quickly because I'm trying to like get rid of the property and invest in someplace else. Okay, that's their narrative.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I need. This is what I want. Let's go, let's go, let's go. My assembly line says, okay, let me do a little research. Can I call you in a couple days? I might call you sooner. Obviously, your time's valuable. If you need more time, great. No, call me. You can call me right. You can call me right now. I said, well, we're talking, but give it a couple of minutes, right? So I have to be respectful of their time and respectful of my time. So I'm doing the process that I do, right? I call it a process, the assembly line. I look at, all the websites, Record of Deeds, all this stuff, right? And I'm like, wow, this is kind of weird. Then I go to Google Maps and I type up the address and I'm like, oh, it must be this building here. Okay, it's this building. Yeah, that's what he said. Commercial on the first floor, a couple stories. Okay, it's this building. And so something's not adding up. The taxes are low. Okay, well, zoom in on that picture, right? And then my next step was to go down there. What's the wrong address? Oh my God. Turns out that his property was demolished.
What?
He didn't know.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, because he's out of state.
He did not know. He did not know.
Unbelievable.
So they hit him with the demolishing lien.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He didn't know.
Put that X on the building and they just took
Yeah. So that's a listing, that I could have had, right?
How did that conversation go after you told him?
I told him, hey, such and such, do me a favor, open up your Google Maps. He's like, okay. Doesn't have to be Google Earth. Just Google Maps, Said, when's the last time you were there? It's been like 10 years. 10 years.
Wow.
This building was demolished long time ago, years ago. And I guess he didn't notice about the taxes or nothing. He didn't care about they were sending it to his address in Chicagoland. So he didn't care about that either. So he was an out-of-state, person that had some real estate. So at that point, he's like, oh my goodness, Stewart, I'm sorry. And I feel bad and so on and so forth. And he's like, man, what should I do?
Right.
Now he's like, what should I do? So as a shark in Barracuda, I said, well, let me take this listing and sell it for you. Of course I didn't say that. That's not the right answer. I said, look, such and such. I have a pool of investors. I have a database. I have access to a database. What do you want me to tell them? Do you want me to tell you this property is worth X, Y, and Z? No, it's not the way to do business. He said, what do you suggest I do? I go, I'll give you options. I'm not going to exactly suggest what you do, but there's other lots that are selling for a little more than what your lien is, right? So then I came up with the idea. I said, you know what I noticed? That your property is here. There's an adjacent property that's empty. And there's another property that looks pretty much, like it's an abandoned owner. I'm thinking assembly. Assemble those lots, talk to the owner next door, get them going, do an assembly, and get all you guys out of this. He's like, oh my goodness.
Genius.
I think it's thinking out of the box at least, right?
Yeah.
Because again, I'm thinking for my client,
Right.
not for I got the listing. I got this $40,000, $50,000 land listing, right? And in that area, I know my numbers very well. Price per square foot for land literally changes within 3 blocks. So it's very typical of the South Side, very typical of the West Side.
Yes.
Just to preface where it might be.
Yeah.
So that's what we came up with. So the point and the moral of the story and the joke is the building's not even there. That's a punchline.
Right.
And furthermore, there's
Unbelievable.
still something you could add value, because if I would have been like, well, I don't want to, undertake this stuff. The opposite was true. I'm like, well, let me use my peripheral vision,
Right.
zoom out of this Google Maps
Right.
and realize there's a lot next door and there's some building that looks crusted and ready to go to. Let me talk to those guys. Let me find out. Let me make the 10, 15,
Be a
20
great developer
calls,
play.
and boom, assembly and out of there.
Wow.
So
Fantastic.
That's an
what
example.
What a great case study.
yeah, it's a case study.
Yeah. That is, interesting. So anyone right now listening in that is looking to, make the plunge to real estate, should they do what you did? Go straight into commercial and then just, start off with a blank slate and just look for a great mentor, or go to residential and just kind of do the traditional route? And, why would they want to go to commercial versus residential to start off with?
Well, I certainly got the answer to that. I never actually had a mentor. Never had a mentor. Would I like to have one? I absolutely. Am I 110 years old and like to have a mentor? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I've never had a mentor. Don't know why, but just never had one. But to answer your question, what should they do? The answer is very simple. Way back when I used to train people, I still do a little bit in martial arts or in wellness. I'm into wellness and health. A lot of people think I'm younger.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, thank you. So I'm into wellness and health. And the very first set, the very first rep of any exercise is to take the first step out of that house. That's the hardest one.
Yeah, you're right.
So with the answer of, what do I recommend? Jump into commercial. Just take the first step, because right there, once you take the first step, you have made yourself susceptible. You're out of your cocoon of safety. People like to condense their life into a cappuccino, an espresso. Oh, this is great. Macallan's Rare Cask Scotch at the end of the evening. That's my favorite scotch. They try to condense their life like, hey, but the opposite is true. You have to make yourself susceptible to be successful. It's a must. If you think you know something, great. Test it every time you can. It's called affirming the consequence. Mm-hmm. Say something is false, and if it's false 1,000 times, but on 1,001 time it's not, then it's not false. Mm. Don't assume something is true. Like the example I gave with the gentleman, the out-of-state buyer, about his property. I affirmed a consequence. I said it was false. That's my process. Then if it's passes that test, then it must be true.
Right.
The Vulcan way of doing things, right?
Yeah,
Logical Vulcan way.
What a great answer. What a great response. And you're right. It doesn't. What a deep such a just. God, that was so good. Every response so far has left me kind of speechless. I don't, because they're so good. But my point is that, yeah, so you're right. It doesn't matter if it's residential or commercial at the end of the day. It's get the hell out of the house, get momentum going. Whichever you fall into will just be the start of your journey. And then, just build momentum from there. And through the natural course of things, you can figure out which one is best for you. But it doesn't matter. Stop focusing on the small stuff, and just if you want to be in real estate, because essentially what you're saying to yourself is you're looking for a change, in business and or a career change. You like real estate. Stop focusing on which of the two. Just get out, do it, and start and figure it out then afterwards. Yeah, but you have to build that momentum.
You have to get out of your safety zone.
And right.
I mean, there's so many cliches, right?
Right.
To get a fruit, you got to go out on a limb. There's so many cliches, but you will run absolutely like you do in life. And I'm not going to expound on this one. That's probably another podcast for sure. You're going to run into a lot of, one word, bad people.
Yes.
You're just going to, there's so many of, if I was a woman, you kiss a lot of frogs before you find Prince Charming. And you do. And you really, really do. So,
right. Well, on that note, Stewart, it has been great. I'm telling you, I've had a great time on this episode.
Thank you.
And if anyone wants to get a hold of you, what is the best way to reach you?
Oh, my email, which is extremely long. It's stewart.morales@cbcnrt.com, or one of my personal emails, which is not that you'll get a quicker response, but if there's some off-topic stuff that I can help you with, whether it's mentoring, just growing, I make myself susceptible to that all the time. It's my first name, STEWARTM, the word brokerage, BORKERAGE, @gmail.com. Please feel free to contact me, and whether it's shooting a breeze, talking banter, or the nuts and bolts of real estate, I make myself susceptible and available.
Amazing. Well, Stewart, thank you so much again. And, we're going to have him on the show. Absolutely. He's going to be back here very soon. So stay tuned. And if you like what you heard, as always, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell to get those notifications every time we're posting. And thanks so much again. And as always, check out Element Studios, EL3 MENT Studios. They do great corporate headshots and real estate photography. Thanks so much.